At this point, it had been 4 weeks since I had seen a doctor, which is normal. Because it is twins and confirmed twins at that point, I was supposed to get ultrasounds every 4 weeks with maternal fetal medicine, which is also very typical, very normal for a twin pregnancy. And then hand in hand with that, I would have an extra appointment with my midwife to just talk about how things were going. It wouldn't be an extra ultrasound, but it would just be, you know, an office visit. So this was my 12-week appointment, and I was getting nervous about it because I knew that this was the appointment that genetic testing would happen. We did genetic testing with Lincoln. We did the maternity 21 NIPT test, and we were able to figure out, you know, that he was a boy, and a lot of the chromosomal abnormalities are tested, and I knew that this appointment was the appointment that was supposed to happen, because in my last appointment, the maternal fetal medicine doctor kind of briefed me on it, and he said, you know, we'll do I'm going to say this wrong, but the nuchal translucency test, where they look at the back of the baby's necks to test for things like Down syndrome. And so I knew that was coming, and that made me really nervous. I had these invasive thoughts of something being wrong genetically. I couldn't stop thinking about Down syndrome, and I couldn't stop thinking about one of the babies vanishing. I had read a lot about vanishing twin syndrome because of what happened to us at the very beginning. And even the maternal fetal medicine doctor had made mention of it in our 8-week appointment. He had said something along the lines of, vanishing twin syndrome is really common, it could happen. He kind of brushed over it before he started talking about the genetic testing, but he did say something about it, so I couldn't get that out of my mind. And part of me was wondering if the cramping I was feeling was, you know, vanishing twin syndrome. But leading up to that appointment, I was really nervous. I remember texting my friend, she's pregnant right now also. And I just remember saying to her that I was really nervous, and I couldn't really figure out why. I was excited because I was going to get to see my babies, but I was nervous. My husband and I had also decided that after this appointment, which was right before Valentine's Day, about a week before, week and a half-ish, we had decided that, you know, we would feel really good about this pregnancy. Not that we didn't already, but we would announce it on social media. We announced our pregnancy with Lincoln on Valentine's Day 2 years ago. And so this was perfect in my eyes. We would have another Valentine's Day announcement, and I was excited about that, and I had ordered some stuff for the announcement, and I had it all planned out in my mind, and something along the lines of, you know, sometimes you pray for a miracle, but God gives you two instead. And I told my husband he didn't have to come to this appointment. He was allowed to, but I told him that he didn't have to. I really wish he would have gone. I remember sitting in the waiting room of maternal fetal medicine, and this was a Friday. Not that that matters, but I had to go to the bathroom so bad. And they were running behind a little bit in scheduling, so I was just chatting with one of the other moms in the waiting room, and I was like, God, I really have to go to the bathroom. But you're not supposed to go. They want you to have a full bladder. It helps with the ultrasound process. And we were just joking and laughing. And she said, well, maybe you can go and like let half of the urine out. And I was like, how am I supposed to stop midstream? And we were joking and laughing, and she was also 12 weeks along. When I got pulled back to the room, the ultrasound tech is the one who takes you to the room first, and then later on the doctor comes in. And in my first appointment with them, I remember asking, because she did the ultrasound first, and then she said, okay, I'm gonna go get the doctor. And I remember asking her, is that normal? Because a lot of the stories I've heard, they only call in the doctor when something is wrong. And she said, no, this is how we do things here at maternal fetal medicine. An ultrasound tech will do the initial scan, and then the doctor comes in and, you know, does a little bit of a consult or whatever. So now with this appointment, I knew the process. I knew exactly what was going to happen. Her and I were joking that I had to go to the bathroom also. And she goes, well, let me see what I can see, and you might be able to go before the doctor comes in. You're 12 weeks along now. There's 2 babies in there. They shouldn't be hard to see. And I just felt good at that point. So she put the little jelly on my belly and put the wand on my belly, and she goes, yeah, your bladder's really full. And that's the last thing she said to me. And then it was 2 minutes of silence and clicking, frantic, quick clicking. So at maternal fetal medicine, they have a big screen on the wall right in front of you, like a TV screen, probably 50 inches, maybe not that big, but where you can see what they're looking at. And I knew right away when I saw my babies that something was wrong. So that partnered with the silence, I just knew they were both still there. But they were both really small. I know what a 12-week ultrasound looks like. And they were both just laying there on the bottom of their sacks. They weren't moving. They were just laying there. There was no flicker. There was no movement. And they were so tiny. I could see what she was doing, so I knew she was measuring them, and she was flipping through different filters and things like that to see if there was blood flow. And I saw her measure. I saw her measure the babies, and they were measuring about 8.5 weeks, 8 weeks, 5 days, both of them, 4 days, if I remember correctly. She quickly clicked away from that, but I saw it. I didn't look at her. I looked at the screen the whole time, and we didn't say anything to each other because I knew. When she pulled the wand off of my belly, I finally turned and looked at her, and her eyes were filled with tears. And I know that this is nothing new to her. I'm sure she sees it all the time, but I'll never forget the look on her face, the tears in her eyes. I told her, something's wrong, isn't it? And she said, yeah, I'm so sorry. And I just sat there. I didn't say a thing. I didn't know what to do. I just sat there. And my mind went blank. And she said, I'm gonna go get the doctor. When she left the room, I grabbed my phone and I sent my husband a text. And I said, something's not right. They're so small. They're just laying at the bottom of the sack. I'm waiting to hear from the doctor. I'm so nervous. I wish you were here. And then I turned the camera on my phone and I pressed record. Not for visual purposes, just for audio, because I knew I wasn't going to be able to listen to what the doctor had to say.
Okay, so this is one of the babies right here. And I'm putting color Doppler on there to look at blood flow, and unfortunately I don't see anything for the baby. And here's the other baby down here. And also not any blood flow. And she's kind of measured them, and they're still about the size of 8.5 weeks. So we call this a miscarriage. And I'm sorry to give you that news.
Thank you.
So what I want to just kind of tell you is what's the most likely cause, what we need to do to manage things, and then how to heal. Okay, because this is it's a loss. It's a big loss. So they can check the chromosomes. If you've had another miscarriage, they can usually check to see what the chromosomes are. And they can do what's called a microarray, and generally about 50% will be abnormal. A viral infection can cause it, some other genetic disorder, and we test it. They're more expensive, and they don't generally do. But when they have done tests on miscarriages, if the chromosomes were normal, there's about 15% of them will have a gene mutation that's not compatible with life. And then the other ones are we just don't understand. It's not anything you did. Okay, no matter how much you walked or lifted things, or whether you ran a red light or you didn't eat enough broccoli. People their natural tendency, what did I do differently that I didn't do the first time? My other pregnancy, they ended fine. So when you think about it, you've got all these little steps that have to go just right. It's a miracle we even have live children that are normal. And just one thing doesn't go right, particularly early, then you just have a miscarriage. You have a couple choices. You can have a D&C where they go in and take suction in it. But the better way to go is with medication to make you just contract, or you can just wait. But if you wait, it can take about a month sometimes. So the medication works about 85% of the time that you get things delivered. And then when you deliver, you can take the tissue and you can take it to your doctor and they can run the DNA test.
Why do you say that that's the better way to do it?
Well, anytime you take an instrument and put it inside the uterus and you dilate the cervix, there could be some scar tissue left behind, and pretty much everybody does well the next time. It used to be all the time they would do that, but it's just a surgical procedure that can be avoided. Now, if you take the medication and it doesn't work, you do a D&C, then that's fine. I mean, it's not that big a deal. It's just but it's your call. If you want a D&C, your doctor will do one. They just kind of give you the options.
When he came in, he put the ultrasound wand on my belly again and quickly looked at what was going on, and he said he flipped something on that shows the blood flow. And I remember them doing this in my 8-week appointment, and you can see the blood flowing through the fetuses and the placentas and all of that. And he flipped that on and he said, there's no blood going to the babies, and there's no heartbeat. And he also said that they were measuring about 8.5 weeks. And then he tried to sit me up, and he said that this was what they call a miscarriage. I've listened to that 15-minute, consult over and over again. I don't know why, but I have. And at the time, I just sat there. I didn't cry. I didn't move. I didn't say anything. I just sat there because I think I was in shock. And he asked me, or he didn't ask me, he told me that there's 3 options at that point. The first one is you just wait it out and you let your body do its thing, and eventually it'll figure out that the babies are no longer alive and it'll pass the tissue, and that can take weeks or months. He also said that there's something called a D&C that we'll get into a little bit later. And then he said the third option was to take medicine to start the process of a natural miscarriage. And it's just like waiting it out, but it makes it happen faster. He said that that was the better option, and I asked him why. And he said that anytime you can avoid an unnecessary surgery, which is what a D&C is, you should. He's not my doctor. He's not my midwife. He's not my OBGYN. So I took what he said with a grain of salt, but for some reason that sticks in my mind. Everything that happened after that for the next 2 weeks is a blur. It felt a lot like how I felt when I was postpartum with Lincoln, when you're just in a fog and you're going through your daily life, but it doesn't feel like your life. It just kind of feels like you're dreaming, maybe, or that you're watching your life from the outside in, or it's a movie or something. It didn't seem real. I did a lot of research that night and the next day about what happens, what a miscarriage is, and how common they are. And that's when I discovered a lot of videos like this, and a lot of people talked about the 3 options and what they did and what happened. And I had decided that I didn't want to pass these babies at home. I didn't want to go through that. I didn't want to have to see them. I didn't want to have to see them. I also heard so many people say that passing the babies at home, babies at home, whether it be with the medicine or naturally, is so painful. And it takes a long time. It doesn't just happen in an hour and then it's over. It takes weeks to pass all the tissue. There's somebody here on YouTube that I've followed for a decade now, and her life is very similar to mine, such that we're the same age, and she has a son that she had is maybe a year older than Lincoln, and she got pregnant the same time I did, the second time around, and she miscarried. She's a very big YouTuber here, Elle Fowler. I'm sure you guys know her. I watched her videos actually before I found out about my miscarriage. I watched her videos and I remember my heart just breaking because she struggled with infertility. And that's one thing that I'm so grateful for, is that we were able to get pregnant right away. But it doesn't make the process of losing a baby any better. She miscarried just like me, and in her video she took the medicine and she passed the baby at home, and her story sounded terrifying to me. Just long and painful, and she had a lot of complications that I actually didn't hear about, and she didn't post her video about until after I had already, done what I was gonna do. But I just, after reading so many women's stories and watching videos, I decided that I wanted to do the D&C. And I talked to my husband about it, and I told him, I cannot pass these babies at home. I cannot do it. At 12 weeks, and twins, that's a lot. I can't do it. And he agreed. He completely supported me in every decision that I wanted to do. I had an appointment with my OBGYN that next Monday. I was so afraid I was going to pass the babies at home that weekend. I started spotting the day after my ultrasound, which is very ironic. I almost feel like my body wanted me to find out through the ultrasound instead of through spotting, just because of what I had gone through earlier in the pregnancy. I don't know, but I started spotting on Saturday, and I was terrified that I was going to start passing the babies that weekend. I was on edge the whole weekend. Physically, I felt fine. No cramping, nothing like that, but I was spotting, and the spotting was getting heavier. I had an appointment on that Monday. I made it to Monday, and I told the doctor that I wanted to do the D&C and I wanted to get it scheduled as soon as possible. I didn't want to pass the babies at home, and during that consult she let me know that they could also do genetic testing, since this technically was my second loss in a row. It's probably a good idea to do the genetic testing. It also provides a lot of closure in the grieving process, so you know what happened, or sometimes you don't know what happened. At this moment in time, I am still waiting for our genetic results to come back. It takes a little while. I should find out very soon, but that will tell me if there was any chromosomal abnormalities. It'll also tell me if they were boys or girls, or both. She scheduled my D&C for the next day, so it was Tuesday, and I kind of want to film a video separately from this all about my D&C, because just like Elle mentioned in her videos, I could not find anything on the internet that walked you through step by step, moment by moment, what happens during a D&C. I am the kind of person who really likes to know what's going on. I love spoiling surprises, and I could not find anything about what happens during a D&C. There was no videos on YouTube that talked about end to end, from the moment you walk in, from the moment you leave. And it's interesting because when you look at like labor and delivery vlogs, there's a million of them out there. And I remember when I found out I was pregnant with Lincoln, I watched so many labor and delivery vlogs that walked you through door to door what happens when you're having a baby, whether that be via C-section or naturally, and you can't find that kind of stuff about a D&C. And so I didn't know what to expect, but I knew that that's the route I wanted to go because I didn't want to go through process of passing the babies at home. So the next day I went to the hospital and I had my D&C, and the recovery was actually not too bad physically from the D&C. I got home and I rested a lot, for that day and the next day. And then right now I'm about 2 weeks post-op from my D&C, and I'm still spotting, but it's better. I really didn't have a lot of cramping or pain the entire time. It wasn't comfortable, but it wasn't painful. I did take some ibuprofen a few times. I took it round the clock the first couple of days just to avoid any potential pain. But then after that, I took it as needed, and it was only a couple of times. I did take a pregnancy test this morning, just curiosity, I guess, and it is still slightly positive. There is still, a faint line there, but it's not a solid blaring positive, which is good because that means that my HCG levels are going down. There is a lot of potential complications that can happen with a miscarriage of any sort, be it tissue being left behind, or there's so many things. And so I think part of me just wanted to see, I don't know. I don't really know why I did that. I know that this video is super long, and I will probably end up cutting it into 2 videos just for time's sake. But if you're watching this and you are going through a miscarriage of any kind, whether it's 1 baby or 2 babies, whether you tried for a year or you tried for 2 weeks, whether it's 6 weeks or 6 months along, I want you to know that you're not alone. This is a very lonely thing to go through, and I do think that people are starting to talk about it more and more, but it's still very taboo, and it's still very scary, and it's very isolating, and it makes you think that you did something wrong, that there's something wrong with you. I have 5 sisters, so I'm one of 6, and all of us have kids, and to my knowledge, up until this point, none of them had gone through a miscarriage. None of my friends had gone through a miscarriage. So it's a very lonely and scary place to be in. And if you're going through this, please know that you're not alone, and know that all the feelings and everything that you're feeling right now, it's all valid. There's no right or wrong way to grieve. There's no right or wrong way to pass your baby. There's no right or wrong way for anything. Know that it's really, really common. My doctor said that 1 in every 6 pregnancies ends in a miscarriage. I don't know how valid those statistics are, but you know, she's an OBGYN, so I trust her. And right around every 1 in 4, 1 in 5 women have experienced a miscarriage. It sucks. You guys, it sucks really bad. It's a level of grief and emotional pain that I don't think anybody should ever have to go through. Nobody wants to go through this. Nobody asked for it. The night before my D&C, I remember I held my baby bump, my little bump, and at this point I knew that they were already gone, but just felt like it was something I was supposed to do. And I talked to them. I said goodbye. I told them that I was sorry, that I never got to hold them in my arms. I never got to kiss their foreheads. I never got to hold their hands. But now I have 2 angels. 3 angels, really. Watching over me and protecting me and their big brother and their dad. It's interesting because something like death has always been really scary to me. But now I know that when I die, no matter when it is, now, tomorrow, 60 years from now, 70 years from now, I'll have these angels waiting for me. For now, that's the end of my story. I do think I'm going to film a video right after this that talks about the D&C because I do think that that's really useful information. But thank you guys for listening to my story and listening to my baby's story. I mean, really, this is their story, not mine. So thank you for listening to it, and I guess that's really it. I don't know how to end this video. I have no idea what to say, so I guess I will just talk to you guys next time.